Hey viewers, George here to do a first impressional talking bit on Box Boy for the Nintendo 3DS. Box Boy is a interesting puzzle platformer created by the same people who do the Kirby games, Hell Laboratories, and this game kind of came out of nowhere. I was watching the Nintendo Direct that they did on April 1st, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, Box Boy's coming out tomorrow." I'm like, I haven't heard anything about this game. And they show the trailer for it, they show some gameplay, and I'm like, this actually looks really interesting, I'm gonna have to check it out. So I grab it, and it's exactly what they said it would be. It's a little platforming puzzle game where you have to utilize this character's ability to create boxes from himself, and you have to kind of use those in various ways, such as like using them as platforms or using them to try and like sneak your way over to another platform or what have you. And it's just like, oh wow, this is a fun little game. This is, you know, a nice little buy. So yeah, I kind of spoiled what I was gonna little bit of praise I have for it. It's a really fun and enjoyable game for sure. So yeah, basically, yeah, like I said, you play as this character called, I'm assuming his name is called Box Boy, or perhaps just Boy, considering he's already a box, and naming him Box Boy would be a little bit redundant. Actually, his name is Cubel, or Obel, or something like that. Goes to show how well I was paying attention. His name's something along that lines, and he's trying to get to the end of this place. The story isn't too in-depth. Not that it really needs to be for a game like this. You're not really looking for an expansive story of the likes of, you know, Skyrim or something along those lines. You're this character and you're in this world, and there's just like these weird bubbly platforms that are kind of blocking your way, and as you complete each world, those bubbly platforms kind of get leveled over with super blocks that your character creates because he's super cool like that. And eventually you meet up with some other friend. You meet up with a female box girl, I would assume it would be. But once again, that feels a little redundant. And I don't think it doesn't really give a name because there's absolutely no dialogue, and it's very much like, you know, they give looks at each other, they give their little emotes with their eyes, and it's a very fun little game. It feels very independent, despite the fact it's made by Hell Laboratories, which is part of Nintendo. You know, the guys that made Kirby made this game that feels so much like an independent game that you would see more from like fucking any other developer that does independent games. You know, you would see this from like Renegade Kids, perhaps. Well, no, they do certain types of games, but you kind of get my gist. This doesn't look like a game that they would make, but they made it, and they've made a fantastic game. The music in it is very simplistic. It works with the style, considering the whole style of the game is, you know, very simplistic in itself, as it's all black and white with, you know, a few shades of gray here and there. So the music complements that fairly well by being pretty simplistic, and I would dare say kind of like almost NES-esque in a sense. It's not all the beeps and blops you would expect from, you know, all those NES games, but in that kind of regard of like a very simplistic soundtrack that accompanies the game. Beyond that, though, there's not a whole lot to talk about this game. I mean, when you complete levels, to complete a level, you have to, next to getting to the end of the level, of course, you have to get these crowns that you find. And depending on how well you do in the level, say if you collect all the crowns and you don't go beyond the amount of boxes you're allowed to create within the level, then you'll get these medals. Depending on how well you do, you can get 10 medals within each level, and you can use those medals to spend in the store to get, you know, costumes, unlock some sounds, some tips and tricks, and like strategies you can use within the game. And there's one other thing there, I can't remember what it was. It was something along those lines, but I mean, like, that gives you a little more incentive, but there isn't a whole lot. Like, it feels like there's like enough medals to buy everything in the store, and not so much like, you know, what you want to spend on it, because you will unlock like other things you can get within the store by as you go through the game. You'll find like these treasure chests in the main world that you can open up, and they give you more things you can get in the store. So it's like, you know, you get incentive from playing the game and playing the game more to buy more things like that kind of stuff. But it seems like a really cool idea. Like, oh, cool, I can grab the little costume, just kind of make it a little more personal for myself. I can listen to the soundtrack off the game, and you know, such and such. Kind of, like the unlockables you kind of expect from Kirby games, oddly enough. So you definitely see things that kind of carry over from their mentality of that game. But as far as like things to spend in there, there's not a whole lot. Like personally, I'm not gonna get like the tips and tricks and like little strategies you can use, because that's the kind of thing I prefer to pick up as I play through the game. Like I prefer to kind of figure those kind of things out as I play the game, because it feels more rewarding that way, of course. So like, you know, early on, I figured out the snaking, how the snaking ability kind of works. I mean, it's not that difficult or anything, but like doing things like that before like the game expects you or like teaches you how to do it, it feels really rewarding. So, you know, unlocking like the strategy or like ideas and tips and tricks of playing the game kind of just feels like it takes away that small amount of reward that you can get from kind of figuring out yourself. Nevertheless, it's there for people who would like it. Personally though, so like I have all these medals. I have like 160 medals currently collected up, because I don't really have anything to spend them on that I want to. Like I grab the music, I grab the costumes, and it's just like, well, I don't really want to spend on anything else. But I mean, like, I'm just kind of sitting there. It's like, that's weird. So yeah, control wise, you know, works really well. B jumps. Y allows you to produce a block, and then you use the D-pad while you're holding the Y button to start like producing the blocks wherever you want them to go. And then of course the D-pad moves if you're not producing blocks. So I mean, very simplistic control scheme, works really well. I've had absolutely no problems with it, or like found like, oh wow, this feels really weird or some shit like that. Actually, scratch that. There's like a small thing, but I mean it's absolutely minuscule, but I might as well mention it because I can. Is in between playing Box Boy, my first session of playing it, and then the second session, and then leading to this, I was playing you know, a few NES games. And for some reason, when I went to go play Box Boy, I was pressing the A button to jump for some reason. I've never had that problem before. Like, I've played multiple games, like, in between doing, you know, playing this game, and then going and playing this game, and playing that, and going back to play that game in between, like, all these different things. And I've never had that problem where I kind of, like, for some reason, mixed control schemes up for no apparent reason. So I don't know what it was with Box Boy. I guess it's like, oh, wow, it looks so Nessie. But, I don't know. This is such a minuscule thing. I shouldn't have even mentioned it, but I felt like, why the fuck not? Because there's so little to talk about this game, because the game is so, you know, straightforward, and it presents everything there for you. It's not like there's a in-depth storyline I should be explaining, or like, you know, a bunch of how complex things get, because as far as the levels go, it's a nice progression of difficulty. So like the first levels are, you know, piss easy, and as you continue on, it kind of gets a little more difficult. You kind of have to start thinking about, you know, how you want to place the blocks in order to get the crowns and shit like that. As the game kind of like slowly teaches you various techniques that you use, like when it first introduces snaking, or how it introduces, you know, hanging off of something and then like using the boxes to transport you over there. You know, things like that. It slowly teaches you that, and then like it takes those teachings and tries and makes you think about ways you can utilize it. So I mean, like, the game's really good at, you know, slowly progressing at a good steady difficulty. It's not like at some point the spike just like increases for no apparent fucking reason. It's perfect. The difficulty works fantastically, and this is much like the Kirby games, how they were originally designed for like anyone to play. You know, this game is quite much the same. Anyone could play Box Boy. You know, I could be like, hey mom, you want to play with Box Boy? Who my mom fucking never plays video games except for, you know, Candy Crush, which is not a game. I could give it to her and she'll be able to figure out no problem. I mean, like, that's what's so great about, I mean, no offense to her, but that's what's so great about HAL Laboratories and how they make games is they kind of have that idea, like, the every gamer in mind. Like, this is a game that's great for people who are starting out, who've never played a game, to people who've, you know, played games, you know, as long as I have or even longer. And you'll still enjoy it regardless because it's just, it works for everyone. Just like a Kirby game, it works for everyone. So once again, HAL Laboratories produces a great game that anyone can enjoy. It's great, it's simplistic, music's enjoyable, controls work, difficulty is perfect. I mean, like, I can't praise this game enough. Price-wise, for some reason I can't remember what the price was. I think it was like, I want to say like $5, like standard price that you see on like the eShop for a lot of games. I'm probably not too far off. If not, that's exactly what it is. So I would highly recommend grabbing this. Definitely a game that's gonna probably be very much underlooked this year, because I went to look around for some gameplay to use for the video, and it's just like there's literally very few videos up that are there, other than things that, like, you know, bigger names would be using, like, you know, GameSpot and IGN and them, but like nothing from, like, you know, the everyday, like a Let's Player putting up. So this game seems like it's going to be very much underlooked. It's going to be a very underdog-esque game, even though it's created by fucking HAL Laboratories. So, yeah, check Boxboy out. You will not be disappointed, for sure, because this is such a fun, enjoyable game. Much like a Kirby game. That seems to be a current theme going on, like, Boxboy, it's like a Kirby game, but puzzle. So yeah, Boxboy, check it out, and until next time, keep on gaming!